What if a single war reshaped the entire planet, leaving cities in ashes, leaders dethroned, and millions dead? Beneath the chaos, secrets, betrayals, and unimaginable horrors unfolded. This wasn't fiction. It was World War II history's most explosive turning point. World War II, fought between 1939 and 1945, was the most devastating conflict in human history, involving over 100 million people from more than 30 countries. It spanned continents, reshaped borders, toppled empires, and resulted in the deaths of an estimated 70 to 85 million people. The road to war, the roots of World War II, can be traced to the aftermath of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles imposed harsh penalties on Germany, including territorial losses, disarmament, and enormous reparations. This created widespread resentment and economic hardship. In this atmosphere, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party rose to power in promising to restore Germany's pride and power. Meanwhile, Italy, under Benito Mussolini, embraced fascism and sought to expand its territory. Japan, driven by militarism and a need for natural resources, had already invaded Manchuria in 1931 and would later expand into China. The war begins. World War II officially began on September 1, 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. In response, Britain and France declared war on Germany 2 days later. The German military used a tactic called blitzkrieg, or lightning war, to quickly overrun Poland, combining fast-moving tanks, aircraft, and infantry. Soon after, the Soviet Union invaded eastern Poland as part of a secret pact with Germany. By 1940, Germany had conquered Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, and France. Britain stood alone, and Hitler began the Battle of Britain, an air campaign meant to crush British resistance. Despite intense bombing, Britain held firm, expanding fronts. In June 1941, Hitler broke his pact with Stalin and launched Operation the invasion of the Soviet Union. It became the largest military operation in history and a turning point. The Soviets, aided by their harsh winters and sheer manpower, would eventually push the Germans back. Meanwhile, in Asia, tensions escalated. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacked the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, drawing the United States into the war. The next day, America declared war on Japan, and soon after, on Germany and Italy. The war became truly global. Fighting raged in Europe, North Africa, the Pacific Islands, and across the seas. The Axis powers Germany, Italy, and Japan faced off against the Allies, which included the United States, Britain, the Soviet Union, China, and many others. Turning the tide. By 1942, the tide began to turn. In the Pacific, the Battle of Midway was a major U.S. victory that crippled Japan's naval power. In North Africa, Allied forces defeated German General Erwin Rommel at El Alamein. In the Soviet Union, the brutal Battle of Stalingrad ended in 1943 with a devastating German defeat. Italy surrendered in 1943 after the Allies invaded from the south, although fighting continued in the North. Germany, however, continued to resist fiercely. In June 1944, the Allies launched a massive amphibious invasion of Nazi-occupied France on the beaches of Normandy. It marked the beginning of the end for Hitler's regime, the end in Europe. By early 1945, Allied forces were advancing from both east and west. Soviet troops pushed into Berlin, while American and British forces crossed the Rhine River. Hitler, refusing to surrender, died by suicide on April 30, 1945, in his Berlin bunker. Germany surrendered unconditionally on May 7, 1945, known as the War in the Pacific. Even after Germany's defeat, the war in the Pacific continued. The U.S. employed a strategy called island hopping, capturing key islands while bypassing others. Fierce battles on Iwo Jima and Okinawa revealed how costly an invasion of mainland Japan would be. To avoid such losses, the U.S. made a controversial decision. On August 6 and 9, 1945, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The devastation was immense. Over 100,000 people died instantly, with tens of thousands more from radiation. Japan surrendered on August 15, 1945, marking VJ Day. The Holocaust amid the fighting. Nazi Germany orchestrated one of the darkest chapters in human history. The Holocaust, under Hitler's regime, 6 million Jews and millions of others, including Romani people, disabled individuals, Poles, Soviet prisoners, and political dissidents were systematically murdered in ghettos, concentration camps, and gas chambers. The liberation of camps like Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen in 1945 exposed the full horror to the world. Aftermath and legacy. World War II left a scarred but reshaped world. Europe lay in ruins. Millions were displaced, orphaned, or traumatized. Cities like Warsaw, Berlin, and Tokyo were bombed nearly beyond recognition. To prevent future conflicts, world leaders created the United Nations in 1945. The Nuremberg trials held Nazi leaders accountable for war crimes. Germany was divided into East and West, as were Europe and the world, with the Cold War between the US and the Soviet Union soon beginning. In Asia, Japan was occupied and rebuilt under US guidance. Former colonies in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East began to seek independence. Accelerating global decolonization, the war also spurred scientific and technological advances. Radar, jet engines, rockets, and most famously the atomic bomb. These would shape the modern age and the nuclear arms race. A war never forgotten. World War II was more than a clash of army. It was a struggle of ideologies, empires, and human values. It showed the depths of cruelty and the heights of courage. From the beaches of Normandy to the ruins of Hiroshima, its impact is still felt today. Its lessons about power, unity, hate, and hope continue to shape our world. And that is why World War II remains one of the most studied, remembered, and impactful events in human history.